The air in the executive club was a stratified lie. On the surface, the managed scent of power, antique leather, cedar smoke, the clean astringency of gin. But beneath it, a cellar stink clung to the air, a damp telluric breath from a place sealed away from the sun. The smell of mold, salt, and slow, inexorable decay. They had mistaken the balance sheet for a holy text, and tonight they were running their final, most audacious program.
They called it the Power Audit. At the center of the great mahogany table, a disk of polished obsidian was not a scrying mirror, but a quantum consequence engine. It was designed to model their strategies for the 2026 midterms, simulating the historical precedents of their policies to ensure total control.
"Initiate the simulation," Arthur Sterling commanded, his voice low. "Parameter, electoral dominance."
One by one, they pricked their thumbs with a silver scalpel, the blood a biometric key linking their corporate sins to the engine. As the last drop hit the obsidian, the frantic numbers within the disk glitched. For a bare second, they resolved into the image of 1,000 spectral picket lines, then a burning forest, then back to chaos. A wound tore open in the air, and from it stepped Niccolo Machiavelli. "You wish to control elections." His voice was a dry rustle of parchment. "A worthy goal for a prince, but your methods are crude." As he spoke, the consequence engine projected a map of the United States onto the wall. The congressional districts, writhing like blood-red veins, gerrymandered into grotesque, undemocratic shapes. This is not statecraft, it is butchery. It's effective butchery. We manufacture the consent. The air shimmered with heat. Girolamo Savonarola appeared, his eyes burning. The Baron screamed, not from fire, but from the psychic feedback loop of the outrage he engineered. 1 billion hateful comments screaming inside his own skull. The oil baron scoffed. Sentiment is irrelevant. Only power matters. The power of John D. Rockefeller. The monopolist oozed into being, a thing of shifting black liquid. Simultaneously, the room filled with the spectral shrieks of his worst nightmares, the ghosts of the Ludlow miners, of union organizers beaten to death in back alleys. The oil baron saw every predatory contract he'd ever forced on a community replay not on paper, but on the flayed skin of a phantom worker.
They thought themselves gods, but gods do not bleed for quarterly reports.
A defense contractor, whose fortune was built on global instability, raised his glass. Empires expand. It is the natural order. Ask Catherine the Great. The Empress materialized, and with her came the ghosts of international indictments, not just Russian serfs, but the phantoms of 1 million dead in financial coups and resource wars from the Congo to Chile. The consequence engine's display flickered, showing the true cost of their emerging markets. Empire needs resources. the oil baron added, his voice slick with greed. At his words, the spectral images shifted to those of apocalyptic warning. The ghosts of Catherine's serfs were now joined by the ghosts of 1 billion burned trees, of drowned coastal cities, of the last polar bear. The Roman ghost of Marcus Licinius Crassus appeared, laughing, as he dripped molten gold onto a spectral image of a dying coral reef. The oil baron choked, feeling the phantom pressure of 1 million years of compressed carbon filling his lungs.
Progress demands sacrifice, declared a real estate magnate who had blockbusted his way to a fortune. The walls of the executive club suddenly became translucent. Pressing against the glass were ghostly faces, hollow-eyed families evicted from their homes, their cold breath fogging the windows of the opulent room they could never enter. Every ledger Sterling saw now flashed with faces of people priced out of life itself.
"We are visionaries," Sterling insisted, his voice cracking. "We are the children of Ada Lovelace." The enchantress of numbers appeared, her face a mask of profound sorrow. "I saw a poetical science," she whispered. Her father, Lord Byron, materialized beside her, radiating fury. "And they have taken your beautiful mathematics and built a digital abattoir."
Lovelace looked at Sterling, and the engine showed him the truth of his vision. He saw the commodification of every human life, the reduction of identity to a data point to be sold. He saw the algorithms, trans kids targeted with hate speech, women's health data sold to fundamentalist groups, every marginalized body quantified, tracked, and exploited.
The Power Audit overloaded. The consequence engine could not compute the infinite debt.
The ghosts stopped being individuals. They collapsed inward, becoming a living, screaming vortex of systemic failure. It was not an abstract monster. It was the abattoir of ideology. It was the spectral picket line, wrapped in burning rainforest, powered by gerrymandered hate, and quantified by an algorithm of dispossession.
It descended. The Abattoir of Ideology did not kill, it repurposed. It was the final, perfect expression of a market correcting for sins instead of capital. It touched the defense contractor, the man who spoke of empire as a natural order. His consciousness was stretched thin, pulled across the globe until it became the very thing he profited from, a border. He was no longer a man, but a psychic scar on the face of the earth, 1,000 miles long. He felt every drone strike as a searing puncture in his own tissue, every refugee's desperate flight as a frantic scratching from within, every bullet fired in a proxy war, a fresh tear in his being. He was the eternal, bleeding line between us and them, a wound that could never be healed, because its very existence was his damnation. It turned to the real estate magnate, who saw progress in the ghosts of evicted families. It inverted his entire existence. He who saw buildings as permanent and people as transient was made into property. His soul was not destroyed, but condemned. His consciousness was smeared into the decaying infrastructure of a slum tenement he had once blockbusted. He felt every leaking pipe as a bleeding artery, every rat scurrying in the walls as a parasite burrowing under his skin, every shattered window as a gouged-out eye. He was forced to feel the collective, crushing despair of every family he had ever displaced, their cold and hunger becoming his eternal state of being.
It faced the oil baron, he who saw the earth as a resource to be drilled and fractured. The abattoir made him the resource itself. His consciousness was compressed beyond the limits of human thought, injected deep into the planetary crust. He became a sentient reservoir of crude, aware and eternal. He felt the crushing weight of a mile of rock above him as a physical manifestation of his own greed. He experienced the slow, inexorable tectonic grind as the true geological timescale he had always ignored. From his prison of heat and pressure, he could feel the carbon he had unleashed, poisoning the atmosphere above, experiencing every future hurricane as a spasm, every drought-stricken field as a patch of drying skin on a body he could no longer control. He was the fuel and the fire, the cause and the consequence, burning for an age in the dark. It reached for the media baron, the architect of discord. He who had fractured reality for profit had his own consciousness shattered into a billion angry pieces. He became a living broadcast, a psychic entity composed entirely of the hateful feedback he had farmed. He was no longer a man, but an eternal, raging comment section. Every lie he had ever platformed, every seed of division he had sown, screamed for dominance in his mind simultaneously. He felt the psychic friction of a million irreconcilable hatreds grinding against each other. He was the troll and the victim, the conspiracy and the debunking, the algorithmically amplified outrage and the exhausted, weeping user scrolling in the dark. His damnation was to be the noise he had put into the world, a signal of pure static with no truth, no self, and no escape.
It came to Arthur Sterling last, the visionary who believed the human soul could be mapped onto a spreadsheet. For him, the abattoir reserved its most intimate cruelty. It did not repossess him. It audited him and found his soul to be a rounding error in his own perfect calculus. His consciousness was not destroyed, but unbundled. His love for his children became a tradable emotional future. His ambition, a speculative asset to be shorted. His memories, a blockchain of personal history, sold off to the highest bidder in 1,000 microtransactions. He was no longer a man, but an infinitely divisible portfolio of his own humanity, forced to watch his very essence be leveraged and traded on a market that only he could perceive, feeling the agonizing loss of every bad bet for eternity. He was the ghost in the machine he built, not as its master, but as its final unsolvable variable, trapped forever inside the consequence engine as it runs a single, recursive simulation to calculate the precise, infinite cost of a soul.
The sun rose on a quiet, pristine executive club. The cleaning crew would notice nothing amiss, but the air was wrong. The layered scents of power were gone.
replaced by a strange, lingering smell. The damp, ancient odor of mold and old blood, yes, but beneath it, something new, a faint electric tang, the smell of a server farm where 1,000,000 souls are being silently, eternally audited.